Scripture teaches us, greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends.
Tweeted out an attack that hurt the religious feelings of Muslims, as opposed to the attack on the Egyptian consulate. Several media outlets called Mr. Romney's reaction a gaffe and went on to declare his campaign badly damaged by the end of the week. Add to that a couple of polls that showed the president getting a bump from his convention, and suddenly the story became how the Romney campaign was dead. Here is how MSNBC handled the story Friday morning.
Look at the Florida number, Joe.
Oh, my Lord.
The fact that, you know, think about what's happened this week in Florida. So you have this poll, we have the president up 5, sitting at 49. You have the Obama campaign deciding to basically almost double its advertising in the state. Because if you cut Florida off, if the president went, it's over.
It's over.
Forget everything else. It is over.
Chuck,
the path
I'm telling
Romney
you,
is done.
The narrative developing is Romney's a loser, and any slight misstep or hesitation in his voice is going to be then highlighted and exaggerated by the media to then confirm the narrative that they're trying to sell, that Romney is the loser.
Administration officials are also saying is that they believe the Libyan president, who you mentioned, said he believes this attack was in fact planned out, premeditated. He also said he believes that when all is said and done, it will show that Al-Qaeda was involved in this attack on the 9/11 anniversary. So he clearly seems to think it was a terror attack. Senior U.S. officials are insisting that they contradict that by saying, look, the Libyan officials do not have all of the facts.
But it was clearly an act of terror. People don't bring heavy weapons and rocket-propelled grenades to demonstrations because they want to demonstrate. And it was very well carried out with direct fire and indirect fire. So for the United States government to say that it was simply a spontaneous act flies in the face of the facts.
Is that, in fact, this was not a pre-planned, premeditated attack. That what happened initially was that it was a spontaneous reaction to what had just transpired in Cairo as a consequence of the video.
If the administration was being straightforward about what happened.
Did you and others mislead the public because you didn't want to admit there was a terror attack?
Absolutely not. The President of the United States referred to it as an act of terror immediately after it occurred, Ed, as you know. 2, Pat Kennedy, the Undersecretary of State for Management, is testifying in public today. So I would look to what he says before your cameras and the American people, rather than what congressional sources, whoever they may be telling you.
So 1 second. If you're citing that on September 12th, the President called it terrorism. He used a phrase like act of terror. No act of terror. Well, then why were you at this podium for several days after that saying we don't know if it's terrorism? If you're now saying... I
never said that. I never said we don't know if it's terrorism.
Jay Carney right there is lying to the American people. I will say it unequivocally because the man did say he blamed the movie.
Why hasn't the President given a speech or a news conference laying out to the American people sort of the aftermath of what was a terror attack, 4 Americans killed? Instead, the Republicans have been hitting him for talking about Big Bird several days out on the campaign trail. He doesn't talk about this act of terror when he goes out and visits and talks with voters. Why won't he talk about it?
So I do not agree with your assessment that he hasn't been talking about this. It is also the case that there is a campaign going on, and he is out there, just like his opponent, talking about a variety of issues that are of interest to the American people.
And your knowledge of the situation in Libya, did you come to a conclusion as to whether this was a terrorist act or whether it was based on some film that was on the internet? Lieutenant Colonel Wood.
It was instantly recognizable to me as a terrorist attack.
Instantly recognizable?
Yes, sir.
And why is that?
Mainly because of my prior knowledge there, I almost expected the attack to come. We were the last flag flying. It was a matter of time.
Look at what Clinton and Obama have said since the attacks.
I offer our most heartfelt condolences and deepest gratitude. This has been a difficult week for the State Department and for our country. We've seen the heavy assault on our post in Benghazi that took the lives of those brave men. We've seen rage and violence directed at American embassies over an awful internet video that we had nothing to do with. It is hard for the American people to make sense of that because it is senseless. There is no justification, none at all, for responding to this video with violence.
We have no information to suggest that it was a pre-planned attack. It is not a reaction to the 9/11 anniversary that we know of.
We've seen rage and violence directed at American embassies over an awful internet video that we had nothing to do with.
The State Department and the White House for days was telling the world, including our enemies, that we are willing to blame a video for mob violence. And then you find out there wasn't any mob, and you find out that there was pre-planned terrorist attack that they knew about 24 hours before. Yes. In addition to that,
if you are so insecure about your religion that somebody making a joke about it forces you to have to kill them, that says a lot about your religion.
Of Muslims overreacting to this stuff. I mean,
there was no protest, and cameras reveal that, and the State Department, the FBI, and others have that video.
The top State Department official who testified before the House Government Oversight Committee confirmed that he told lawmakers a day after this attack on the Benghazi consulate that he believed it was terrorism.
I also believed that it was because of the nature of it and the lethality of it that was a complex attack.
Yet Ambassador Kennedy staunchly defended Ambassador Susan Rice, who 5 days after the attack made the rounds on the Sunday talk shows, insisting it was a demonstration prompted by a YouTube video for an anti-Islam film that spun out of control.
If any administration official, including any career official, were on television on Sunday, September 16th, they would have said what Ambassador Rice said.
That position challenged repeatedly by a Republican who just returned from the region.
When I was in Libya, good part of the day, never once did a person ever mention a video. Never.
With at least 230 documented security incidents in the year leading up to the attack, including this IED attack on the U.S. consulate in June, lawmakers were told that Tripoli could not protect American interests.
We could not rely on the Libyan government for security, intelligence, and law enforcement help to identify emerging threats or to ask them for assistance in mitigating those threats.
Through newly released emails and testimony, one theme dominated. Official Washington was preoccupied with reducing the number of American security personnel at the consulate and replacing them with Libyan guards, even after a series of attacks on diplomats. Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Wood recently oversaw military security for the consulate.
We were the last flag flying in Benghazi. We were the last thing on their target list.
A leading Democrat suggested Congress needed to look at its own actions.
The fact is that since 2011, the House has cut embassy security by hundreds of millions of dollars below the amounts requested by the president.
The why they're doing it is that they had been, for 3.5 years, been lying to us about the fact that they had taken care of al-Qaeda, that al-Qaeda was no longer a threat, that the threats in areas of the hotspots of the world, like North Africa and moving over into tougher spots across all the way over to Egypt, they were trying to tell us that there were no problems anymore. And so when this tragedy, and it is a horrible tragedy, losing Ambassador Stevens, when this happened, the first thing that came to mind is, how do we cover up the big lie? The big lie of that there is no problems in that part of the world anymore, that we have somehow magically succeeded. And in an effort to cover up the big lie, you got the daily lies on the terrorist issue, and the president goes, we know they knew it was terrorism within the first day, and yet the president goes to the UN and says video, video, video.
Well, they said it was spontaneous, lie. They said it was video, lie. The Libyan president told us in day one, and intelligence told them. That's right. And then the State Department is saying, well, we knew it had nothing to do with the video. We knew it wasn't spontaneous. So we got a major problem here. We'll have more details on that.
When I was in Libya, good part of the day, never once did a person ever mention a video. Never. And I am fascinated to know and understand from the President of the United States, from the Secretary of State, and from the Ambassador to the United Nations, how they can justify that this video caused this attack. It was a terrorist attack.
Why in the heck did it take so long for all these highly briefed and intelligent people to try and figure out that it actually wasn't a 15-minute YouTube video, and actually was a 9/11 event, a terrorist attack, I got to tell you, it's very unfortunate that terrorists don't recognize that this is an election year. And they tend to just do what they want anytime they want to us. And when we have a weakened position around the world, and when we leave our embassies and our consuls and our people as unprotected as we do, and then we say, you know what, this is terrible because this is 27 days before an election. Why are we bringing it up now? And I ask the same question. Where the heck were we before 9/11, this 9/11?
The Libyan intelligence so superior to the American intelligence that they knew within 24 hours that it was a terrorist attack, and within 6 days, we're still saying that it was the result of a video?
And then she said she relied solely and squarely on the information the intelligence community provided. Mr. Chairman, I would like to have another hearing where we can ask Ambassador Rice under oath, who told you what when? You're going to blame the Intelligence Committee. You come before this committee and you tell us who told you it was a video.
So the administration knew in real time there wasn't a mob. They knew in real time that this was a well-coordinated attack. They knew in real time that it involved heavy weaponry. This was clearly a terrorist attack, and the American people have clearly, as you said, been lied to.
The big issue. Let's take a look at a montage of the White House's evolving story in terms of what happened in Benghazi. This is pretty staggering. Watch this.
We've seen rage and violence directed at American embassies over an awful internet video.
This is under investigation. The unrest around the region has been in response to this video. We were not aware of any actionable intelligence indicating that an attack on the U.S. mission in Benghazi was planned or imminent.
It began spontaneously in Benghazi. It was a spontaneous reaction to what had just transpired in Cairo as a consequence of the video.
It is, I think, self-evident that what happened in Benghazi was a terrorist attack.
We don't know yet, and so we're going to continue to investigate this.
What happened in Benghazi was a terrorist attack.
Then I heard Hitlary Clinton say that it was an act of terrorism. Is it? What do you say?
Well, we're still doing an investigation.
It was a crude and disgusting video. Sparked outrage throughout the Muslim world.
It was a terrorist attack. A full 2 weeks later, and we knew within 24 hours, and the President of the United States is telling the American people something that he knows is factually inaccurate.
Right. I think this is, Sean, one of the worst cover-ups probably in the history of the Republic.
Tempers were flaring during today's House hearing on the Benghazi terrorist attack. White House Press Secretary Jay Carney, he tried to rewrite history during his afternoon press briefing. Now, he actually tried to tell our very own Ed Henry that he never denied the attack was an act of terror. Watch this.
If you're citing that on September 12th, the president called it terrorism. He used a phrase like act of terror. Act of terror. No of act of terror. Well, then why were you at this podium for several days after that saying we don't know if it's terrorism? If you're now
I never
saying
said that. I never said we don't know if it's terrorism.
All right, Mr. Carney, you are a flat-out liar, and here is the tape to prove it. Now, you said this on September the 14th.
It's actively under investigation, both the Benghazi attack and incidents elsewhere. And my point was that we don't have and did not have concrete evidence to suggest that this was not in reaction to the film, but we're obviously investigating the matter.
What you've got here is a den of lying liars and crap weasels who are all behind the scenes trying to figure out who to hang out to dry.
4 Americans, 4 patriots. They loved this country, and they chose to serve it, and served it well. They had a mission, and they believed in it. They knew the danger, and they accepted it.